Hello everyone and welcome back to the STPL. My name is Kix. Joining me here is Rapid, and we're here to bring you another series of the STPL. And thankfully this one's...
I was going to say, we actually get all the games for this one, so don't worry. There will be an exciting conclusion to this series. It won't be the same teams playing because obviously it's not the same series. You guys should have been able to think that one out, but just in case you weren't able to, I got you. Second series is ReV versus VT or Valhalla team. And yeah, I don't know who's going to come out on top. I think ReV is maybe the older school team, if you want to say that. But Valhalla team, they've definitely taken a few games I didn't expect them to. So I don't know what to expect them to do today. There's your tongue twister.
Yeah, we were just talking about tongue twisters, and there we go, you just come up with one. So that is the power of Rapid, but it's going to be a pretty cool series, this one, I think. If anyone close to ReV in terms of skill level overall, I would definitely Valhalla team. Really good teams. Obviously, ReV have struggled a little bit against the stronger teams, other than like Badinho, who's just taking down everybody because Badinho's a boss. But for the vast majority of people on ReV, they are kind of like one of the middling teams of the SCPL in terms of skill level. It's going to be cool to see them here against one of the newer teams that joined us in round 3. They did a pretty good job. Just to quickly go through the ranking for this sort of group, for the Group A ranking. For Group B, all of the games have been played so far. We see Soul, FBW, and Bull once again taking the top 3 slots right away. Valhalla team actually had a bye week in week 1, so it's going to be their first match in round 2, of round 4 even. Man, I am way far behind on myself. And am I cutting out?
You're not cutting out for me.
Okay, well, hopefully I'm not lagging too much for anyone, but Storm DM and ReV did lose their first set of games. Now, this looks like it's going to be a pretty close group, Rapid, because FBW and Bull team, I know it's just after game 1, but they're starting exactly like they did last time. Dead neck and neck situation for both of them, so kind of interested to see how this group is actually going to play out.
I think we might need more than just 1 weeks of games to tell who is close to who. I mean, ReV is down there at the bottom, but I don't think that really tells the whole story. They do need to actually win a game, but we'll figure it out. I don't know exactly what to expect from Valhalla team either because they just haven't played. So this is the first time we get a chance to see them in round 4.
Yeah, so let's actually introduce both of our teams by showing off their intros. I mean, stats a little bit. And see you guys. Units from Spire have gone down. Medina with an absolutely dominating performance in game 1 here against Soul. GG. Units from Spire have gone down. Medina with an absolutely dominating performance in game 1 here against Soul. GG. This cabin is done. Ultra's carapace is not done yet, but it will be soon. Defilers, lots of hatcheries, and here we go. This is going to be the push of death for Care Bear. GG! Push forward with Siege, with Grace, and Fiola's going to be forced to tap out here. There's absolutely nothing Fiola to do. GG!
The game. Here we go. Double Reavers being dropped out. Scarabs on the way. DT in the front lines getting focused down, and all the Zealots blowing up the Scarabs, but the Reavers still have yet to be focused here. Now finally getting picked up. Micro back to the back. This is a very well controlled fight. Finally the Side Storms are starting to come through.
Yeah, the Side Storms are coming through, and so are the Zealots. GG! Gonna lose his Spire as well. Ling's trying to come in to defend. Firebats in defense, so doing so much damage. Okay guys, so that was for Team ReV. Hopefully my mic will be a little bit better. I know you said not to mess with it, but I moved it ever so slightly closer. I was actually sitting quite far away for some reason. I kind of edged myself further away from the desk, and I don't know why. But you can see that ReV here, they've had a little bit of a tough path here, but they've beaten some pretty good teams. They beat Psy, they beat BWL, and they were in the last 10 games, they were their only 2 wins. Let's quickly show off our second team here. It's going to be Valhalla team. There's even gas still in the natural expansion, so that's kind of annoying. But the command center does go down. Naokin in a terrible spot right now. He's nearly down 100 supply. He's been forced into making vultures, and he doesn't... Like, how many tanks does Naokin have right now? He has the 3 here. He has 2 here, so that's 5 tanks. But here's another big drop coming in from 3S. That could be it. GG! Forgot about. Okay, here we go. Looks like the third base is going to go for Sugo as well. And when this goes, he is not going to be mining again. And that is going to be the end of that one. And it looks like this is going to be the way the cookie crumbles for Sugo as he taps out with GG.
There's like 2 control groups of Hydras coming in to reinforce.
Yeah, things are not looking good for our Protoss here right now. It looks like VT are going to take the quick 2-0 lead in this series. Unless Deadcar can pull off a miracle, he's trying his best to do it. You can see a huge number of Hydras coming in the background. GG!
It's showtime!
Okay guys, so that was Valhalla team. Valhalla team, one of our newest teams, so they did actually miss round 1 and round 2. They obviously joined us here for round 3. We can see their results from round 3 the whole way through. They beat so they beat Ash and they beat MSJ. Unfortunately, they lost to all our other clans here, but they were up in a very strong group. White Clan, Naz, Bull, Media, and FBW. All 5 of those teams were all in contention to getting into the playoffs at the end of the round. So, sick group they were in.
Yeah, that group is, or was rather, very... I thought it was going to be a lot more competitive than it was, but in the end... Oh, sorry, I was reading the scores wrong. That was their score versus those teams, not those teams' individual scores. I was like, wait a second, this doesn't make any sense at all, but I figured it out in the end. But now ReV is playing off against Valhalla team. Total wins, pretty low for both of these teams. They both had very difficult groups last round, but this round is a brand new round, Kicks, and so we don't know what to expect. We really don't know what to expect from Valhalla team because they haven't played yet.
Yeah, I mean, Valhalla team, well, they've played in round 3, but they've not played in round 4, so we don't know how they're going to really do with the maps. Obviously, this is going to be what we're going to go into next, but we've seen the map lineup, so let's quickly introduce our 2 first players to start us off here. It's going to be pretty good players, just somehow missing all my windows, but here we go. So to have a look at the player history, you know what, we should actually introduce the rosters. That is a good place to start. We're going to start with a TVZ, which I know a lot of people will be happy with, between Incomplete and YY. Incomplete is actually the team captain of Clan Revolution. It's pretty cool. We're going to have a PvP between Narsil and Freeze. Then we're going to have a PvP between Caspus and Drew. And then we're going to have a TvP between Quail and Dates on New Bloody Ridge. Now, the match I'm most looking forward to, I think, is going to be match 2, just because Narsil is a pretty sick Protoss player for ReV, and Threes is a good Terran player for Valhalla, so it should be a really cool matchup.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think for me, my biggest thing to take away is just kind of relative skill levels of the teams. Also, I mean, I know ReV's roster pretty well, just from having seen them play for so many rounds, but I'm still kind of familiarizing myself with the Valhalla team, so yeah. That might take me a while. And this is a good opportunity if you're unfamiliar with either of these teams to kind of get a chance to see what they have to offer. So yeah, I guess let's just get into it.
Yeah, so having a quick look at our first player here, it's going to be the captain of ReV. He is actually the person who did the interview with me, which you can read on TL if you so choose to. It's up there in the community news. He's also done interviews with Zero. He's done a really funny interview with me. When I started the STPL, I did an interview with all the team captains. His photo was a photo he set up. I think he said his uncle was a cameraman or something. And his photo is like 7 of him in different poses in one portrait, which is really funny. So if you want to go check that out, the thread's on TL somewhere. You can search for STPL, it's like the round 1 thread. But he has switched race throughout the STPL. He actually played Zerg as well at one point. But he started off as Protoss, became Terran, to not only help the STPL with more Terran players. He did it to kind of expand the lineup of ReV. That's how dedicated Incomplete is to his clan. It's kind of crazy. He learned an entire new race, and it's going to be his TVZ here that's going to be put up to the test.
Yeah, I would definitely never do that. I mean, I try to learn at least a little bit about every race, but when it comes to playing them, that's a whole other thing. That's like learning a different language to talk to your teammates, who also who also know the same language you know to start out with. I'm just like, well, would I really ever do that? Probably not.
Yeah, and his opponent, not much to say about this guy because we don't really know too much. He's called YY. We saw a clip of him in their team intro. He beat Dentag in a PvP, ZVP even, on, not La Mancha, that's the map we're going into. It was on Coliseum too. There's not really too much to talk about other than he won his only game. And let's get in the map intro for our first map of this series. It's going to be on La Mancha. Okay guys, so we're back. We're watching La Mancha here. Now we're going to have players in vertical positions again, and once again I've somehow managed to make a 2 look like a 1, so I'm really good at this drawing thing. I hope I can hold a candle to the OGN guys who did it before, because their drawings were absolutely terrible. But you know what? It's going to be a TVZ. I know a lot of people are going to be excited to see this, and Lucky Noob especially loves his Zerg players. He also really loves when players go for proxy hatches. Now, I don't think we're going to see that this game, but the Zerg player is going to be spawning in the top left. We're likely going to see YY take this other top right main if we get that far as his third base. Incomplete does have a few options where he wants to go. He can go to the right, or he can move forward to sort of set up a forward command post, as it were, to push across. But this should be a fairly cool map to see. Obviously, Incomplete's rush distance, not exactly the smallest, but he does only have to go over one bit of high ground. But he does need to be careful, as there is this counterattack path over this bridge and through his possible third base that he'll have to sort of defend against.
Yeah, and we got a chance to see this map earlier, so if you missed those games, well, you didn't miss the map at least. There's plenty of times to see this. And actually, this gets rotated out next week, right? Or does it just get rotated further down in the map pool?
Basically, next week, this will be the third map. The map will get rotated out as Fortress, Eye of the Storm, then Fortress will come in. But let's get into game number 1 here. It's Incomplete versus YY, and it's on La Mancha. Okay, spawning us over here in the top left-hand position, we do have, fighting for Valhalla team in the purple, it's going to be YY.
And his opponent, prominent member of Clan ReV, this is Incomplete. Also the name of the Backstreet Boys reboot song.
That's I only have one thing to say about the Valhalla team player. Why did you choose this name?
Dude, so there used to be, back in the US East days, this player named ZZ, who also, raises similar questions. So I've never seen, I haven't seen too many of these, let's duplicate the same letter and just, be cool like that kind of guys. But turns out there's more of them out there.
Yeah, he's also got a lot of dots in his name as well. He's got a dot between Y and Y, then 2 dots afterwards. Not sure on the significance of the dots, but I guess we can always ask him at one point. One thing I do want to head towards doing, and one thing I mentioned in the PL interview I did, well, I said the ReV interview, was I really want to get more player interviews done. So if anyone's out there listening and wants to get involved with helping the STPL, if you want to do some player interviews, I would be very happy for your help. Just hit me up on Discord or a PM on TL or something. I'm always looking for people to help, so it'd be a great thing to learn more about the players. So
yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of these players do not have a lot of information about them just out there in the form of interviews. But there is actually a really cool initiative by ReV to get more interviews out there. If you're interested in that, you can check out an interview with Kix on Team Liquid to get to know more about the fixtures of the StarCraft community.
yeah, and hopefully it won't be too long till they do an interview with Rapid, because you live a really, really cool life. You want people to actually go out to Korea and try and make a career out of casting, so not many people can say they've lived the same lifestyle as you. I guess there's only really English speaking. I think you, Artosis, and Tasteless are the only ones StarCraft 1 wise. Obviously you've got no regret for StarCraft 2 and had players like Moletrap for a while, but you're one of the pioneers almost, so it's kinda cool.
Oh, I definitely would not consider myself a pioneer, but I have done things like I've done a few interviews before then, so maybe people can just like go rewatch those. Either way, in the end, I'm excited to learn more about the players playing in this tournament. Guys like YY.
Yes.
And why he chose that name.
Yeah.
So as far as the builds, I think that was 12 pool, which is I mean not that common against Terran. I don't really know what you expect to accomplish with that.
Yeah, I think it's mainly he's just going to push out with some Lings early on. I mean, it could have been a 9 pool. I wasn't quite paying too much attention. I was too busy thinking for some reason about other things. But we've got the command center coming up here for Incomplete now. YY obviously still does have a chance to do some damage now. Luckily enough for Incomplete, he is going to send a second scouting SCV, and he saves it. Nice dupe on that SCV there to keep that alive. Very, very important that he gets this across the map, but you can see the Incomplete get up with his Marines up his ramp, should be sending some SCVs down, but this command center could be in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, it could be. This is kind of an interesting side effect of going for this build, especially if you can get on top of the Marines, circling around behind the SCVs, getting 1, 2, 3. No, only 2, and he saves the rest of the Lings to heal up and come back another day. I actually thought he was going to maybe go in with a little bit more aggression there and try to snipe off maybe 2 of the other Marines, because this isn't like one of those safe depot against barracks kind of situations where you're never technically supposed to kill the Marines. There wasn't actually anything saving those Marines except for the SCVs, so I thought that could have been a little bit more dangerous, but in the end, it wasn't.
Yeah, so we've got the Engineering Bay coming up here for Incomplete, so he is going to be going for a very quick +1. No Turax Academy here from him. Obviously we're going into 3 Hatch Layer for YY, so it's likely going to be for Muteless, but obviously we can't rule out Lurkers as a possibility just yet. Obviously the Hydralisk then will be coming up fairly soon if we were to see this, but Incomplete's going to get in here, going to see everything that's going on, and obviously we do have the second gas coming up, which is a very, very big tell that it will be Muteless on the way. So Incomplete just needs to sort of tech up, prepare himself. This should be the Academy coming in. Yep, it is. And he should start adding on his additional barracks soon. We're going to put on a little bit of pressure here with a few Marines just to keep the Zerg honest.
Yeah, and I think what you really want to do, so this is, I want to call this the modesty push. Not named for the person who does it, but for the person who, for how the person it is being done to reacts to it. Because I don't know if you guys have seen ASL yet. Go back and watch Modesty's group. It is the saddest I have ever been at watching a player. It's like, I don't want to spoil it, but like, yeah, this is why you, that game is why you move out with just a few Marines before you actually, are able to deal a whole lot. You just gotta keep them honest.
Yeah, and it looks like YY is certainly going to be staying honest here. Going into 2 sunken colonies now. 2 sunkens means you're going to have a little bit of extra money for a few extra Lings. We've got the Spire coming up as well. Now, oftentimes, like Koga actually taught me this when I was struggling really badly with TVZ. He was like, depending on how many Sunken GC, depends on what they're going to do. 3 is kind of like the standard. If it's 3, you know, they're just going to be harassing with mutas, and they're pretty safe at home, so there's not too much you can do. If they go for more, it's going to be a very, very quick hive. And if they go for less, it's going to be for a lot of lings in tandem with the mutas. So it's likely we're going to see some more lings here, possibly a quicker lurker play coming in as well to maybe try and make up for the fact the lings won't be there and the mutas will be in numerous numbers. But it looks like YY going to actually be getting ready to take a third base as soon as he's built his first 9 muteless.
Yeah, I think the 9 mutas should... Oh, man, look at that timing. The eggs morph, the scan comes down. Feels good. But yeah, the third base is going to come up at the same time. And so as a Terran player, if you scan, nothing's been morphed, and then the scan expires, I think you can kind of infer that because there's 3 larvae at each one of the hatcheries, that's what's going to happen. But he did get a chance to see it, so he knows exactly what's coming. It's going to be a control group of mutas, and that is very dangerous, especially if you have leading medics, because you just pick them off in one shot, and it's not going to be good for the rest of those Marines.
Yeah, this is one of those dangerous times for Medic Marine on the middle of the map. He doesn't quite have range done. He is trying to put on a little bit of pressure, but when you don't have range, all of a sudden these mutas can dive in, get some of the important units, and get back out again without first Marine going to go down. The Marines, unfortunately, you can see the difference that range makes. He can't get enough damage down, and now he needs to be incredibly careful with his medics. The medics are going to be the most important part of this puzzle right now, and it looks like YY not going to waste any time, going to try and fly straight into the main.
Ooh, some unprotected Marines. The bonus zone for those mutas is going to pull back the bio ball from off the map, and that is definitely what you want as YY, because all the while he's getting this third base up and running, and that is exactly what you want these mutas to do.
And there's only one
Find
turret.
a weak spot, and yeah, he has found a weak spot here right over the depot farm, and it's going to be so hard for the bio to get in here. Lots of damage being done by this initial clump of mutas.
Yeah, one of the things you can see here is Incomplete definitely doesn't have the kind of experience that you get from playing Terran for a very, very long time. His turret positioning, a little bit of work needs to be done on that, not really covering all he needs to cover. Like, he built 2 turrets behind the mineral line. Unfortunately, they didn't get to do anything, and the turrets behind the barracks actually cost him a few extra Marines. So Incomplete certainly not going to make that same mistake twice, I would say. Going to make sure changing that for his next games. But you can see these lings coming into action here in the middle of the map. Speedlings spreading out all over the place, just trying to find this bio ball. Great scouting by YY at the moment.
Oh yeah, the ling spread is something, it just looks so artistic when you see it on the mini-map. You just click all over, send the lings, spread them out, and that is going to give you so much vision. And really all you need to do is find out where the bio ball is, because it tells you so much about how you can play. Yep, there we go, consistently picking off little by little. He hasn't remade the 11th muta, so it's not as strong as just you know, as it's when they came out, and he's continuing to lose a couple of mutas here and there. But the big thing is no bio has made it across the halfway point in the map, and that means that as a Zerg player, you feel so safe.
Yeah, and this is the kind of time you start to get really worried as a Terran player. You know there's going to be lurkers out on the map. We can see the first 2 are going to be heading in to block this sort of bridge over on the left, and if we see Incomplete go for that position again, he could actually get really, really destroyed by stop lurkers here, both of them getting ready to defend that area. Now we do have 5 barracks here. They are going to be able to continue building up. Scientifically on the way as well. Actually forced to add on an additional 2 missile turrets. Now does Incomplete scan the lurkers? No, he's actually scanned in front. So he scanned a pathway to the base. He knows there's no lurkers there, and he's going to go for it, but oh no, he's actually heading over to the left. These stop lurkers could do so much damage to the mutas. Luring him in.
The mutas through the lurkers? No!
Oh!
The humanity! He's not even noticing it. He thinks it's maybe the mutas dealing the damage, and this is going to be the death of every single Marine and medic in this bio ball.
Yeah.
Well, except for the one that's randomly on the left-hand side, but damn, that was... those are the best stop lurkers I've seen in a while.
The trouble is,
12 kills between them.
He used so many scans to scan ahead of where he was going, and then he decided not to go that way. A little bit of a mistake that cost him so much. He didn't actually have any scans when all his units were dying. And GG, YY takes down Incomplete in game number 1.
Well, yeah, that'll do it. Okay. mean, for everybody that wants to complain about how Imba scans are, like, yeah, you've got to use them. So
Yeah. Well,
that
that happens.
looks rough. Whereas, let me just point this out: if you had like an overlord or an observer, obviously, if that's going to go ahead of your army, and you would have seen those lurkers. So, just saying, it's a really cool victory there by YY. I think he had a really good spot in that game, even without the stop lurkers. But yeah, that's definitely the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, so I'm quickly hosting up the next replay. If you can jump in here rapid, and then what we can do is we can get started with our next game. Now, obviously this does mean Valhalla team are 1-0 up over our sort of veterans here in the STPL Clan Revolution, but there's still a good number of games to play. So we're going to be heading into game number 2, which is going to be between Threes and who did I say it was? It was Narsil. So this should be pretty cool. It's going to be on Neo Medusa. I always get like New and Neo mixed up when I'm trying to think of the map name. I'm like, Neo Bloody Ridge, no that's wrong. New Medusa, no that's wrong. God damn it.
Kix, there's no authority figure here. You can just say whatever you want.
I can, but then I'm giving up my what do you call it? My reputation as the guy who knows all the maps. So I've got to be careful.
Yeah, but just because you messed that part of the map up doesn't mean you don't know the maps.
That's a good point. But can never be too safe. The way should be pretty cool as we get into game number 2 here. So hopefully you're in the replay, which so we get started. Obviously we're going to go through and introduce our players first. Then I'll introduce the map. But just make sure I've definitely got everything set, and then we can jump on over and introduce our first player here, which is going to be for Clan Revolution. It is Narsil. So Narsil, as a player, hasn't played too many games. He's got a similar win ratio to Dentag, but when you look at the amount of players he's played against and who they are, you can kind of see why that happened. I mean, he played against Yaji, one of the best Protosses on on IRK. The logo's right there. The name completely mistook me, even though it's there. TRL took him down in a TVP. We saw Bonneth take him down in a PvP. Castle feat, which is a really impressive feat. Castle, back when he was on Ash, was a really strong player. He lost to Ayaji, but let's not go into too many of his losses. His opponent is going to be Threes. Now, Threes is one of those other players who kind of appeared for Valhalla team and showed his strength relatively quickly, but he did actually lose against Umaya twice. That's where his third loss comes from. But he did beat Nayukan in a TVT. We haven't had a chance to see though, so kind of cool to see this, especially on a map such as Medusa. Okay guys, so we're back again. We're going in to Neo Medusa here. Now, we did see a game on this before. Some of you may have seen this back in the day as well. It's a relatively map considered back from 2008 at this point even. So I could let you guys off if you haven't seen games on here, but obviously this is in the ladder map pool now, so it'd be a good time more than any to actually learn this map. We're going to have both our players here in the top left and middle right spawns. There are the sort of back mineral-only bases. We should see Narsil take that a lot quicker than we will see Threes. Getting a third gas on this map for Terran a little bit more difficult. Obviously you can actually push out over here and secure this ramp, sorry, this bridge even here, but taking this base is quite difficult. You leave yourself very open. The center is very, very open here in the middle. And also you have these temples, which are going to be quite easy for Protoss to break down slowly but surely. And things get a little bit out of hand if you let the Protoss go unchecked on this map.
Yeah, for sure, because especially because of the kind of double quotes ease that you can defend the third base. That means that really the big challenge that Protoss players have in a lot of matchups, like specifically versus Zerg, can be just so difficult that it's definitely something you have to contest. So I'm glad it's back. I like to think that the holiday season was upon us in North America, and Matt Sherman's going back home to visit with his family, and he asked his grandfather, "Hey, grandfather, what was the maps that you watched on Brood War when you were growing up?" It's just this one. So that's why it's back in the map pool, because it is way old. And I'm not sure it lives up to this current meta balance standpoint, so I'm excited to see how it fares in the current map pool. But I'm glad that we brought it back for STPL too, so we get even more map stats to look at.
Yeah, let's get into game number 2 here. It's on the Umber Juicer. It's Narsil versus Threes, and it's starting now. Okay, starting us off here in the middle right position, we do have the blue Protoss fighting for Clan Revolution. It's Narsil.
And his opponent is Threes, or 3S. Did you ever play that, it was a free-to-play shooter MMO called S4?
No,
It was super big in Japan and Korea. I think it was made by Nexon. I used to play that all the time, but that was S4. This is 3S.
I was gonna say I played there was a FPS that I played, which was a Korean FPS by Nexon. It was Warhawk, I think it was.
Warhawk? Oh my goodness, that's like, so there's a bunch of weird Korean FPSs that nobody outside of Korea knows about, like Dark Force and or it was Shadow Force, something like that, and
that massive one, like Strike something or sudden attack.
Counter. Yeah, so sudden attack's super big, but yeah. There's a bunch of AVA is another big one that's super huge in Japan and kind of in Korea too. But yeah, there's a lot of games like that that are just so popular over here that nobody would ever know about if you don't really follow it.
My favorite one ever, and I actually sat and watched an hour-long VOD the other day, was Kart Rider. Kart Rider was around when Brood War was around, like back in the day, and I never watched it because I was like, I kind of knew it existed, but there was no sort of English resources for me to try and find, and YouTube didn't exist, so I didn't know where to go. But that game is hype. Like, I don't know how it's so hype, but it's insane, and the commentators get so into it. It's crazy.
And then they do 1v1 races, which I thought always should have been a part of. Yeah, always should have been a part of racing games. And that game's still super popular today. Well, I don't know about super popular, but out in Korea, they're still pulling tons and tons, like thousands and thousands of viewers for their streams and stuff. And it's actually really big in Europe too. There's a bunch of pro gaming teams out there, and it's one of the few esports that Korean teams compete in, where European teams are actually the best in the world.
Oh wow!
So kind of really sick competitive scene, but. Much like Brood War, if you don't follow the scene specifically, you might not know it if you only follow, like, the top 1 or 2 most popular games out there.
Yeah, it's really cool, and obviously Brood War still never really died in Korea. It sort of disappeared for a while, obviously, when it fell off of MBC and OGN. Well, it fell off of BC first, obviously, but it's kind of like everyone was worried, especially on Team Liquid back then. I remember when they sort of announced they were going to host StarCraft 2 tournaments, and there was a lot of people like, oh my god, Brood War's dead. And it's like, nope. It just went away for a little bit. Then we had a plucky young man called Sonic, and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say his name anymore because he committed fraud, so that was a little bit of a problem, but there we have Africa
that's not
stepping
actually
in.
His name, Kix. He wasn't named Sonic by his parents.
Yeah, well, he should have been. That'd be a cool name.
I feel like was it Britney Spears that named her kid Apple? I'm just like, okay, my dude, like you're that kid's gonna have to sit in a classroom at one point in their life, and we'll see how that goes. But anyway, I'm really glad that neither one of these players' names are their real life names.
Yeah.
Actually, if I'm not mistaken, if I can play my nerd card here, isn't Narsil the name of a sword that was used in the Lord of the Rings. I think so. So I'm gonna throw out a name, and I think it's Arendelle. I don't remember, but there's an elf that has a sword, and I think it's named Narsil. If I'm not totally dumb, and if I
I
am,
don't
then
know.
you can revoke my nerd card. But I think I remember that. Anyway, the idea is that some names have meaning, and this is one of them. Sick. Now we can talk about Brugor.
Yeah, so back to this game, obviously we have 2-gate Power Goon coming out from Narsil. Now, Narsil is setting a probe up to build more scouting pylons, just wants to make sure that he doesn't die to a drop later on. He doesn't know what's going on back in 3's base, but 3's is actually going into a mine expand by the looks of it. Has a Vulture out already. The bunker's there now. This bunker is going to be incredibly important. Now, 3's did actually see the second gateway, so he knows what's coming, he knows he has to prepare, and the fact he got the Vulture first is going to make this a little bit harder. He's not going to have the siege tank as quickly, so okay, so he is actually going to go for siege rather than mines. Now, I almost feel like mines would have been a better choice here, because you just get the robo so unbelievably late when you're going for this build that Narsil's doing.
Yeah, and I mean that can be a real liability. Well, especially like, so my thing is, so Protoss never really get armor upgrades, so they only have to get the attack. But for Terran, man, you know, it's a real struggle as Terran here, because you have to get both armor and attack upgrades. What's up with that, Kix? Seems pretty unfair to me.
Yeah, it works out in the end of the game though, when obviously you get your 3-3 Terran mech, and then the way the game's designed and the way people seem to forget is you shouldn't be able to take that out with one army. That's the whole point. It's ultimate army. You know, you build 2 armies, you take it down. I mean, you can get lucky with 1 engagement. The thing you need to do is knock out that tank count. But it looks like Narsil going to be pushing forward with a few of his Dragoons. He's actually done a really good job blocking scouting. He stopped the SCV coming back in, and he stopped this Vulture as well. So the Nexus, at least for now, is going to go unscouted, and he does obviously have the option of going for a quick third Nexus if he chooses to.
Yeah, I actually really like that idea, especially since it's pretty double quotes safe. One of the cool things that I've seen is that you can glitch Vulture through the temples with a mine, and that if you're good at it,
Yeah.
then you can harass early third bases. And I think we are going to see a quick third here from Narsil, banking up minerals. And yeah, there we go. Third base rather, up at the mineral only in the back.
Yeah, I mean, this is playing out exactly how I'd expect this map to play out so far. Actually overreacting due to his lack of scouting, but the problem is he has to. When you don't scout anything as Terran, the only thing you can do is prepare for everything. Because if you don't prepare, one of the Protoss cheeses will kill you. Now, he only actually has 1 tank to his name well, sorry, 3 tanks now to his name. They're all kind of near the front of his base. He's still got a turret ring going on around the edge. He doesn't want to die to Reavers. I mean, he does obviously get the option now of kind of blocking this off and maybe going for something crazy like a deep 6, but I likely think we're probably just going to see him take his third base as well. He's not added on any additional factories as of yet. Looks like he's going to add that second factory now. But I think the third base is definitely his best option here, and that's going to kind of give them economic parity too, so...
Yep, no, you're exactly right. I think things are even out for a little bit. Obviously, still what we should be looking for is in the future, there's this 2-1 timing that is so potent. I think a lot of times I kind of forget about that, and then the Terran pushes across the map and just kills the guy. But we don't have any upgrades just yet, so we're just going to be chilling. And it looks like both players are content to macro from here on.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like the standard way you'd introduce a play back in the day. You'd have both players playing relatively safe. I mean, I did mention a little bit before, and obviously it's in the map intro, the center of this map, most of it is unbuildable, so you can't push with turrets, and there's also not too many places where you can kind of hug the wall. Obviously you do have the wall on the edge of the map, but it's not as powerful to just sit on them, because there is so much room the Protoss player can just move around. Now, the Vulture is going to run in, see if he can kill a 4th base coming up for Narsil, and that's because he's going for his third base on position at this third here. These, obviously all the extra turrets are going to put them a little bit further behind Now the barracks has actually blocked off the tank from being able to save this depot. At least it's going to be saved now, but he did have to move that tank around through the mineral line, so things are looking a little bit funky here for Threes. He's been delayed a lot, but he is going to go into double tank production.
Much to the surprise of no one.
Yeah.
Honestly, the idea that as a Terran player, I think that the third base is maybe a little bit more meaningful, because for a lot of races, mineral onlys are not actually that useful, but for a Terran, they allow you to make mines, essentially. And so this means that this base is just going to fuel such huge minefields that when it comes to taking further bases, that's probably going to be a lot easier for Threes. Just to sort of try to extrapolate on towards the future. Obviously, for now, there's not all that much happening, so there's nothing really super big to talk about. But we are starting to really hit our stride on both sides.
Yeah, and I mean, we've got the fourth factory coming in here for Threes. Obviously, the mineral only for Protoss does have its advantage as well. You get the quicker gateways, you get the quicker extra nexus as well, which allows you to take that fourth base very, very quickly. Now, Narsil, this is a little bit unfortunate. One of the things I keep bringing up every single PvT, Narsil, why are you not taking the other main? If you get the other main, you get the extra gateways, get that flanking opportunity on the main army without needing to worry too much about your main gateway rallies. So, a little bit of a mistake here, I'd say, from Narsil. I guess this is kind of the current meta. I mean, I personally don't agree with it. As someone who's watched like so many Pro League games, I can't begin to explain. I can't even count that many, but hopefully it won't come into play too much. We should see a good game.
I would hope so. I don't think there's any reason to suspect anything less than that. There's nothing that has given us the idea that the game will not be good, as long as one player doesn't just like roll over. Like, macros hitting on both sides. Three's a little bit down, but that's just because there's tons of gateways. We are starting to hit some important upgrades. So +1s coming through from the Terran player. We're starting to get speed and +1 weapons for ground for Protoss. And that's a really big combination. But usually you associate that with Zealots in things like PBZ for Dragoons and PBT. And so these Dragoons are going to be pretty strong once that upgrade kicks in. And hopefully that allows them to snipe off key tanks and fight the Terran push a little bit better.
Yeah, and he does have his Templar Archives coming in, so he will likely going for a Stargate after this. I mean, he does have the option of going for Storm, which he is, so we could still see that Kingdom style of nothing but gateways. I know it's been dubbed more recently as Gateway Man, but this is Gateway Man plus Templar, so that Storm is obviously a very, very strong tool in the PvT arsenal, and it's something that Threes is going to really have to be careful of. Now, Threes does keep scanning. I think he actually scanned to try and take out one of the observers there above his natural. So we're going to have Narsil in the dark at least on what Threes is doing. So in the end, this turret ring actually kind of paid off slightly, but there is a little bit of a gap here.
Yeah, I think the turret ring may be an expensive investment, but I mean, peace of mind is so valuable. Maybe that means that I'm not cutting his corners as much as I need to be, but I think it's pretty valuable. Anyway, the idea is that, well, actually both players have kind of set up their double quotes turret rings. You got this ring of Dragoons up the top, as well as some scouting pylons in a couple of places and an observer. So both players are kind of aware that just due to the sort of arcing cliffs that surround your bases, drops are pretty potent on this map.
Yeah, now one thing Narsil just scanned is he did scan and saw the Templar Archives. Now, obviously you can't see the Templar Archives upgrading, so he doesn't know that anything's coming. He's probably going to assume that Arbiters are going to be on the way, so we should see the Science System coming in soon, which is just about to finish up. And we should see EMP starting fairly shortly after that as well. Now, Narsil is pushing forward, clearing some of these mines, wants to try and make it a little bit harder for Threes to sit back, but he does need to be careful. These Dragoons are actually taking quite a bit of damage from this one tank.
Yeah, pushing the Siege Fire, what? That's not what you're supposed to be doing with your Dragoons. But clearing the minefield is a big deal, because I was talking about how maybe that mineral only was going to facilitate some extra vultures, but Threes actually kind of missed a couple of macro rounds, so he doesn't have the crazy number I was expecting. And he also really hasn't gotten out on the map to lay any minefields in crazy places or block bases with those vultures. So yeah, most of these vultures have all three of their mines, and at this point, you're really supposed to be trading away vultures that have used all of their mines to replace them in the future. And now he has no mines. His vultures are just kind of constipated in the natural, and he
Yeah.
really does need to find a way to push out.
And he has the problem of laying mines in front of him now is just going to make it impossible to move forward later on. He's obviously going to be able to start laying mines to defend this possible fourth base. This is obviously going to be a lot further behind Narsil's. Narsil didn't, in fact, go for the Arbiter Tribunal at any point so far, I don't believe, so it is going to be nothing but High Templar and Gateway units. He is double upgrading them, though. A little bit late getting +2 attack, that's only just now starting. I did want to wait till that third gas kicked in, and he's got +1 armor coming in too, so... I mean, Threes is still just scanning all over the place, just trying to find where the Arbiter Tribunal is, but you just can't find it. It's a little bit unfortunate for him.
Yeah, that is actually kind of, well, I mean, you say unfortunate. Maybe for, Protoss apologists out there, it is actually justice being done.
Yeah.
But hey, getting EMP, regardless of whether or not there's an Arbiter Tribunal, always going to be useful. At the very least, you can just, EMP the Zealots and they just
And the High
evaporate.
Templar.
So yeah, the High Templar are also a good target. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's just scanned again. He's actually going to be quite low on scans at this point. I think he's lucky in a way that there isn't an Arbiter Tribunal anywhere, because he actually does not have a single scan at any one of his bases. So if Narsil suddenly decided he wanted to run in here with an Arbiter, things would get very, very messy. Now, we do have Threes actually not going to be able to shoot down this Observer over his army. He doesn't have anything to up right now, making a mistake that I make sometimes where you just kind of forget to build Goliaths, and this is going to be a bit more annoying for him, and obviously for Narsil at least, this is going to be a massive thing, as he is going to know exactly where to aim his storms when his High Templar actually managed to walk up to the battlefield.
Yeah, it makes it much easier to kind of queue those up. You can also magic box them if you want, but the idea is that your aim is going to be really good. Now, one thing that's kind of surprising to me, so Narsil has this big kind of concave out in the middle of the map. We aren't even seeing Threes try to run vultures by to escape that. Or you can actually destroy this temple and use that as kind of an escape path too, if you want to do that. He's not even actually dropping either, which would be cool. He's just going to try to do it on the ground with this big bad push. And he's actually kind of an anti-timing because he's doing it before +2 weapons finishes.
It's just about finished now though, so he is going to hit just about when he needs to. The first storm is being used on the Zealots, and I mean this is a little bit unfortunate for Narsil, where he had his Dragoons over on the right side, but unfortunately they go down immediately, and this is going to be the big push in from Narsil. Can he clean up this army?
Big concave, so these Dragoons and Zealots hitting from the left-hand side are, oh my god, they're doing so well. Mind drag into the tanks even, but I mean, there's still a lot of vultures and tanks here. I think that this is actually too much for Threes.
It is, and it looks like Narsil has actually cut the tank count just enough, I would say, to mean that he's not immediately going to die to the counter, I think, but Narsil should be able to get a decent number of units back behind this. But with 8 factories now, we're actually starting to see the macro of Threes really kicking in. And this is where you run into that problem of taking that close fourth. I mean, he is starting to build gateways over on the left-hand side of the map, but he doesn't have any units produced over there so far, so all of a sudden, Threes is going to be running straight in. Nice storms. Going to take out a few of those Zealots, but it looks like Narsil could be stuck in a little bit of a bind here, as Forges going to be completely out in the open. Luckily for him, +2 attack is going to finish, so that's one little victory for Narsil here.
Is it though? Is it? Okay, there it is. I thought the tanks were going to siege, one-shot the Forge, and then that was going to be it, but
the
biggest thing is, who cares if you have +2 attack if you have no units to attack with +2s? Yeah, there's just nothing here. It's a 60 supply advantage, Kicks.
It is. Now, Narsil does have some gateways over on the left. He is building off of most of his gateways now, trying to get as many units as humanly possible. But if Narsil goes for a counter here, we're going to see with already a good number of units back at home. And this push may not actually stop Rapid.
Nope, I don't think it is. I think this is actually much. I mean, maybe it does get cleaned up eventually. Maybe you land some 6 storms. Maybe the surrounding gateway plays are what you need. But there's also tanks sieging the 5 o'clock base too, so even that is going to be difficult. Narsil did sneak out and cancel the 9 o'clock expansion, but Vulture's going to clean all of that up and should allow that base to come down. And this push is still not dealt with. It's sieging the main, Kicks.
Yeah, this is one of those really awkward moments in PvT where you know that the Terran pretty much has it. Now, there is a lot of Zealots here, not many Vultures. The Zealots get on top of those back tanks, and this is where things start to become a problem, with the D-Matrix on the front tank doing a lot of help to get those extra shots down. But it looks like just about Narsil has enough to clean this up at his main.
Yeah, he is going to clear it. He did actually have a crazy number of gateways in there. Not crazy, but it's just a lot, right?
Yeah.
And so he was able to kind of macro out enough to deal with that. But he did take massive damage.
Zealots.
He lost his third, and yeah, oh man, whoops. Okay, well, mines are good.
Yeah, that was like 20 supply of Zealots there. So many Zealots just went down. The probes as well all went down from that 4th base. They all tried to go back to the main. And that kind of cost them their lives. Now, a lot of Vultures heading into this bottom base. He knows that it's there due to the transferring probes. And there's not actually that many Dragoons here to keep this alive. And this isn't the end of it. You can see that Threes is heading forward with his tanks. Going to be doing a lot of damage to and also save this possible 5th base.
Man, this is just really struggle town for Narsil. You know, or even if he was like a super pro player, like say, you know, like Best or Snow or somebody like, this would still be a very difficult position to be in, because at this point it's not like you're dying to a big push, but you have to stop all of these little Vulture daggers from getting into your bases and try to harass the Terran and keep him from getting this 5th, 6th base up, which is sort of your 2 missions to check off of your quest log during this mid game. Plus, he also took a ton of damage, so he has much less supply. So it's even harder to do all of those things.
Yeah, he also lost a lot of money when he lost all of his probes. He's not been able to rebuild them properly, so he's only realistically mining off of about 2 bases fully. There's a few probes down on the bottom middle nexus, but they're not going to have anything. There is an Arbiter here finally, but it's going to be a while before he can get any of the spells up that he needs. And I mean, just the pure Vulture count from Threes is just doing so much now. And you can see that Narsil is just trying to get damage done, but he just can't do it. There's units absolutely everywhere for Threes right now.
He's just got it. Look at this semicircle. Honestly, you can kind of call the game from the minimap.
Yeah.
All of the bases are protected. Huge tank lines, Vultures, and everything protecting all of this. One Zealot gets in, hits an SCV once, and then dies. So, like, you know, that's kind of the story that's going on here.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a shame, because Narsil, I think, if he hadn't have thrown all that supply away, I think he'd be about 160 supply, 170 supply at this point. Obviously, he lost a lot of Zealots, he lost a lot of goons just now, and it's just a case of he won't be able to get the army necessary. I mean, just imagine if all this supply was together, all of a sudden this big push going to your bottom left base can be cleared up, but unfortunately he just doesn't have enough units. Maths are not on his side. He will get the vessel though, so maybe the Arbiter can do something.
Man, I've thought that thought so many times, Kicks. It's just like, well, the Arbiter cloaks stuff. Maybe if I can just keep it invisible, I can win with it, but no, it never happens. There's always scan, there's always vessels, there's always something to reveal it. Very, very rare that
there's a recall, but they will die.
That. Wait, what?
I think
wow, that's... Oh, I think, was there a mine there?
Yeah, there must have been a mine there. I just suddenly saw all the units disappear on the minimap, and I was like, where is the units?
Okay, you might want to rewind in the replay. I'm going to do that. I got to see this.
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to rewind, like, about 30 seconds. I'm going to do what the Korean obs do, and it always surprises me they manage to do this properly. but they always manage to keep catch the units, and then they catch the Arbiter recalling them. So I don't even know. I didn't even see this Arbiter running around. I don't even know how I got up here. Oh my god, there's actually a lot of mines there.
Wow, there's so many mines. What is that? 8 mines? Woo!
Yeah, but this is kind of the moment that secured the game anyway. Obviously, the recall sort of brought the inevitable death a little bit quicker, but I still can't see this Arbiter anywhere. So I don't.
Where? Oh, it's over the Stargate in the.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Case. Here it goes.
Yeah, so
here
the
it goes.
Arbiter's going to be flying in. Let's see if I can catch this.
Oh no.
Here's the army.
Not like
There's the recall.
this.
Oh
no. Okay, that's a little bit of a tragedy. Not safe for Protoss, for sure.
Oh, that was hard. That was hard to watch. I'm sorry, Narsil. I showed off your pain to everybody there. There's 111 people watching right now. Welcome to all of you. Hopefully you're enjoying the show. Obviously that was just the end of game number 2 of this series. So we've still got a couple of games max. Or no, a couple of games max. A couple of games possible. There could be 3 games as well, depending on if we go to the ace match. We're going to be getting that after this very short break. See you guys soon. Okay guys, welcome back to the STPL. Unlike what the up next box says, we're actually going to have Drew playing Zerg here, so it's going to be a ZVP, so that's always better than a PvP, I would say. Hopefully this will be a cool game as well. Unfortunately last game Narsil getting a little bit caught off guard by the push of 3s, unable to get the damage he needed to do on the first bit of the push, and that just meant that he kind of pushed through to victory, and not much Narsil could do about it. But that does mean Valhalla team are currently 2-0 up against their opponents, and it's going to be up to the players here, especially for ReV, to bring it back as we get into map number 3. So just to introduce our couple of players here, we're going to start off with player 1, going to be for ReV. It's Caspas. Now I need to make sure I'm on the right screen. There we go. Caspas has played a few games of his. You may recognize his name Maturino is one of the most generous people I've ever actually met. He's donated over $800, I think it is, to the prize pool. So without him, the STPL would not be nearly as big as it is. So huge thank you to him. Obviously, his games haven't shown off the true testament of skill just yet, but he's been up against Yeti and Torgrim in 2 of them, and Dentag in the other. So tough opponents. He's actually lost. I mean, it's showing PvP here, but it's not much of a big deal because he is going to be playing against Zerg. He has lost his only Zerg game though, which is a bit unfortunate for him, but it's all good. And his opponent going to be Drew for Valhalla team now. Somehow it's showing his versus Glass. I think it's because it's picking up. He played P against Dragon, who's mainly Protoss. So basically, he lost against Dragon regardless. Dragon, a very, very strong player, and he lost against Hit'em from Ash. Now, Hit'em is one of Ash's players that was really, really good in round 3. So hopefully we get to see a little bit more of him as we get into the STPL round 4. We're going to be moving into game number 3 here, which is going to be for the first time today on Holy World SE. Okay guys, so we are back now. Holy World SE, this map is a treat for me to see. Hopefully we're going to see another long game on here, because there's this one thing that I always like to point out in the middle of the map. We've not seen it used as of yet in the ZVP, but Central Command Center, not seen it in any other map in Brood War history, at least at pro level. And the reason is because Infested Terrans are pretty good against Protoss, so if we get to see that, I'll be very happy. Now we have both our players spawning in the top left and the bottom left and top left position. So we do have a very short rush distance for our Protoss player. Obviously you do have the wall in here. You can see that they'll be able to push through at the center straight up to the natural. Obviously it's going to be quite easy for our Zerg player to take a third base over here. But one thing this map features, which a few maps have featured in the past, mainly starting with Outsider, is you do have these mineral-only bases here, which does give you access to some minerals and some gas behind it. And obviously if the opponent's range has range, it makes it a little bit harder to take the minerals, but you can definitely get that early gas. It's going to be a very big benefit to any early economy.
Yeah, it functions a little bit like Outsider with the safety to take the bases around the back, but you do have to be careful because they are consequently very easy to shut down in a lot of ways. And it's a low ground main, so it's not quite like you can siege the command center or whatever from the high ground, but still, if you do get pushed back into your main, it's pretty rough to get to bust out again. And consequently, if you're taking another main, like as a Zerg player, it can be equally difficult.
Yep, so let's get into game number 3. It's Caspus versus Drew here on Holy World SE. Starting us off here in the bottom left-hand position, we do have the Peach Protoss fighting for Clan Revolution. Caspus.
And his opponent playing for Valhalla team in the blue Zerg is Drew.
Yeah, so it looks like they had a few obs in the game to start with, so obviously something that they need to be careful of. Caspus did ask them to leave, so hopefully they made that possible. We don't want to be seeing any players playing with lag, which is the main reason why I don't cast from live games. I mean, there's a pretty other big reason, which is I don't even think I'd have enough time in a weekend to to cast every single game of these live. So that's a major reason.
Yeah, I think given the massive number of games, this is basically the only way that makes sense, and it fixes the lag issue from
Yeah.
servers, so it's a win-win.
Just want to say thanks to Blur for the nice message in chat as well. Yeah, we got both of us back here again. We're back here for the STPL, so it's back to normal service in terms of what's going on here. So we are in the start of round 4. This is game 3 of week 2 of ReV versus Valhalla team. So we've got a 12 pool coming in from so far, and this is kind of like the run of the... I guess this is an overpool rather than a 12. So we should see a hatch coming up quite soon after this, and Caspus going for a Forge Fast expansion.
Yeah, Forge Fast Expand, of course, a little bit less aggressive than like a Gateway Expand. I've really been liking this TT1 style where you Gateway Expand and then run 3 Zealots across the map. It puts on a lot more pressure than I'm used to, and I think than a lot of Zerg players are used to, but that's only if you do go for the Gateway Expo. And this way, it's a little bit safer, but certainly less proactive. Unless you're a dirty cannon rusher.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even... You know, one thing I don't think I've ever seen a cannon rush in STPL.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, there is that one game which was Castle versus Grast on St. Peaks of Baekdu, but we don't really talk about that game because that game was a bit of a mess, so...
Oh, that game ended before it began. It was just... okay, well... yeah, cannon rushes are definitely something you have to worry about, especially if you're going to try to take an early third base.
Yeah.
You can actually just, you can absolutely just hide a pylon and cannon that down. But you're right, it is definitely not as common.
Yeah, now one thing that Caspus needs to be careful of is he actually did lose his probe, so that's going to be a lot less scouting info for him. Having to play a lot safer now. He did actually go for 2 cannons and then cancelled one, so hopefully this isn't going to bite him in the backside here as he does push forward with another probe, or at least he should be. He's just trying to play super safe until a Zealot comes out, but he really does need to try and get some vision over this Zerg base because he is going to be in a world of hurt if a sudden swell of lings comes out. Luckily enough for him, that's not going to be the case, but he doesn't know that.
He doesn't know. Oh, okay, well, third base coming down, natural just about halfway, or over halfway done. Gateway to complete the wall on the front, and I guess everything is just kind of going according to plan. I guess we still don't have a cybernetics core up, so that's certainly something that will need to happen, and there it is. Okay, so, yeah, I don't know about you, Kix, but the standard way I see this go is gateways to get High Templar out, and then the Zerg player would go for like a 5-hatch Hydra style. But this third base is super far away, the third hatch, so I don't know. I guess it's no farther away than the other base, so I'm interested to see what kind of style is going to happen here, because I think we already have the 4th hatch coming down and maybe a 5th.
The Hydra end's coming down, the 5th hatch isn't started just yet, but this is kind of like an older style. I guess if you're going to play on an older map, maybe this makes sense, but this was the style... well, I say this, but we're not actually too sure exactly what style this is, but kind of going for a further natural is more in the lines of what Savvy do back in like 2006, 2007, and the benefit that this gave Zerg was it gave you the ability to just build a lot of stack defense and just not die. Basically, we saw this more recently in ASL 5 on Crossing Field, and it kind of worked really well. In fact, I think it must have been ASL 4 on Crossing Field where Lava played this style against someone else. Basically, he just built so much stack defense, so many lurkers as well, that the Protoss opponent he had couldn't actually break through anywhere. Now, we are going to have a couple of Zealots moving in, trying to keep the Zerg a little bit more honest. Now, it is possible that this still could be a 3-hatch Hydra build. There's no lair or anything like that coming in just yet, so obviously it's not going to be as efficient as you taking a forward hatchery, but it kind of gives you a little bit of a backup plan if it all goes wrong.
Yeah, it does. These zealots are going to have a backup plan if they back up to the base, and I think this might be a little bit panicky.
Yeah, there's
That
a
is
lot of
one,
cannons.
two, three, 6 cannons, 3 up, 3 more on the way. And I guess if you actually do commit with this Hydra push, then yes, that's the number of cannons that you need. But A, they're not going to save the gateway, and B, you can just drone behind this, and I think I see a lot of Zerg players just do it that way.
Yeah, I mean, we've got that 5th hatchery coming in, so this is a little bit of fake pressure here, not going into mass Hydra. But I guess in this case, Caspus just wants to be safe. Like, he doesn't want to die. Obviously, it's very, very easy to die to a Hydra bus when you don't have enough cannons. He's going to lose his first gateway. The Forge is likely going to go down as well. Speed just finishing up for the Hydras too, so we're going to have a lot more Hydras pushing forward at some point soon. We've actually got an Evolution Chamber coming up here over for Drew at this third base as well. So he is transitioning away from this, but I think he's just going to try and get as much damage as he humanly can with these Hydras that he has.
Yeah, well, the big bust out for the Protoss player is speed and legs and +1. Well, if you don't have +1, then sure, the legs let you get on top of the Hydras, but you don't deal enough damage quickly enough for the Zealots to survive for as long as they need to. So this is going to be a little bit rough without +1. He's going to have to rebuild the Forge somewhere else to start that upgrade again.
Yeah, now the one thing that I kind of neglected to mention before, but one of the interesting things about the features of this map is while 6 cannons, I mean now it's like 7 or 8 cannons, a little bit over the top. If you think about what we saw from PRL the other day, there are 2 other bases that Caspers can take behind me. So this isn't just a play of like, well, I guess I'm locked in my base forever now. He does actually have the option of taking a third as well, which is kind of one of the major moments where Protoss start to struggle. If they can't push out, if they do get their +1 delayed for so long, they find themselves stuck on 2 base, and that's never good, but he does have the option to expand.
Okay, so finally picking a couple of these Hydras as they get kind of too close for comfort there to the cannons. Legs are done for these Zealots, so they're going to get up close and personal, take out a few of these Hydras, but like I said, they do not deal damage incredibly quickly, and so every single Zealot here is going to die if they try to fight.
Yep, but he does lure a few more Hydras into the cannons. That's a little bit of extra value. Obviously, every additional unit you can kill with the cannons is going to be a benefit for him. We've got Drew back at home going into his Spire, going into his 4th base as well, and going into his 2nd Evolution Chamber. So we're going to have a lot of upgrades coming up from our Zerg player here. And a fully upgraded Zerg army, especially against one of a Protoss who had all his Forge delayed and everything. This is going to be where it's going to get really awkward here for Caspus as the game goes on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we talk about how it's difficult for the Protoss player to get a third base. Maybe that will actually be easy, but you also have to just not die in general.
Yeah.
And so while Storm, yeah, it's halfway done, we are going to see further upgrades. I think we're at, yeah, we don't have any for Zerg yet, but he's getting 1-1 behind this and getting lurkers. So we could actually have a nasty lurker contain here.
You know, it almost feels to me like Caspus may have thought his Corsair died. Kind of just sitting it over the main base. I'm not really sure what he's focusing on at the moment, but
there we go.
There we go. He's found it again. Luckily enough, he found it then as well. 4 Scourge just come out. He is sort of taking a risk here, trying to go in, but it looks like the Scourge have given up following it. So I need to say the Caspus. The Corsair is on its way back now, and we're starting to see the High Templar coming out, and still no third base yet for him.
Yeah, still none. I mean, maybe he just thinks he's going to be able to take this mineral only in the back, or try to get the gas base. But I mean, you just have to sit some lurkers behind there, and you're never going to get that one. So, I don't know. Caspus is pretty entrenched. Now he does have a bunch of zealots. Does he ever start +1? No, I guess he never got it. So. That is not what you want when you try to bust out. He is going to, and there's not, all those Hydras here immediately, but they're coming, and so this is going to be a very small Protoss army.
Yeah, now it looks like Doc has done something. I'm not really sure what he did. Streamlabs doesn't show it at all, but thank you for what you just did. So, welcome, Doc, as well. I actually found something funny about Doc Holiday. Obviously, I met him when I went to BlizzCon, but he listens to the STPL as like a radio broadcast because he can't get video. So he kind of listens to it and sort of experiences the STPL in a way no one else does. So it's kind of cool to see him back again. We've got the Queen's Nest here. For Drew, gonna go into Hive behind this. Now, we don't see any melee upgrades coming in just yet, so this is likely just gonna be to go into Defilers. And slowly but surely, Caspus is adding more and more units, so I'm wondering what exactly his plan is gonna be. Obviously, Drew hasn't actually built that many units. He's been spending a lot of his lava on drones. A lot of them are actually idle at the 4th base here. This is a little bit of a mistake from him. A little bit of a misclick. I've certainly seen players do this before, but it'll be interesting to see how long they're actually sat there idle, because it's very hard to tell. But obviously, we've got Caspus up against a big lurker contain now.
I mean, it's, I guess, kind of a contain. Not really, because you can just take the back bases. But you're right, it's a contain to keep him off the map, which means that Drew can actually just get this 4th base up, totally powering. He's going to be on 9 hatcheries here in just a second. Let me actually count these to make sure. Looks like he's getting, 1. Hive just now finished. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 9 hatches. Ooh.
And Triple Evolution Chamber as well. He's adding on a 3rd one in his main. So that's going to be for melee upgrades. Does give him the option of going for, obviously, Ultras a little bit later. And he's also going into a 10th hatchery now with one of his drones at the top left mineral only. And there's another drone going here to try and expand to this gas base. So slowly but surely, Caspus is finding himself in a pretty difficult position. Like, obviously he's going to have a big army, he has a decent number of gateways, but the issue you've got is the longer you leave the Zerg, the bigger the Zerg's bank gets, the bigger the units get, the more upgrades they have over you.
Ooh.
And then you kind of trap yourself.
Yeah, and I love this tech switch. Going into Guardians behind, well, Mutas and then Guardians behind this. Exactly what you want, right? So you contain them with Lurkers, you force them to storm and run their Zealots into Lurkers to bust out, but then they don't have storms for the Guardians, and I mean, what else are you going to have as Protoss to deal with Guardians? You're going to have Corsairs? I don't think so.
Yeah, and to be honest, it doesn't look like he's going for a Great Aspire just yet, but even just a Muta Switch is going to be powerful here. Obviously, he doesn't need to be careful of the Storm, but he's going to be using Mutas. He's not gone too many. This is enough to sort of break your way through. Now, this is another relatively long PvP. I do not see a Queen. What are these Zerg players doing? I know this is week 2, they've got 5 more weeks to start to build those infested Terrans, but I really need to see a Queen by the end of round 4, or I'm going to be very disappointed. That's a nice Storm dodge.
Ooh, nice snipe on the High Templar, but yeah, catching all of those Mutas. They're pretty low right now, although I guess they do regen decently quickly.
Yeah.
But still, just the ability to attack an unprotected main, you can actually just get so much damage done. It's so annoying because there's nothing the Protoss player can do. There's 0 way you're going to get units back into your main. You try, but then you give up, at the front of your contain. So actually, Caspus is trying to bust out here. I don't know if this is how you do it, but he is doing a decent job.
Up against 2-1 upgraded Lurkers as well, so they are doing so much damage. I mean, look how quickly the Zealots are just shredding. It's so insane right now, and the Observer goes down as well. And it looks like this could be the end for Caspus. He's trying to push forward. A nice storm on top of the Lurkers, but unfortunately, he's lost his entire army, and Drew has pushed his way through, and it looks like Drew could be taking VT here to a victory if Caspus can't make something happen. Now, Caspus still hasn't taken that 3rd base, so I wonder if he just doesn't know about them. He never even sent a probe down there, so it's possible that maybe this is just a little bit unfortunate. He did sub in for someone, so maybe he just wasn't prepared for the map, but yeah, I mean, Drew has just got this game in the bag. It would take a very big mistake to throw this one away.
Yeah, he even split his mutas, so they're not stormable. Well, he is super contained, and I think we might just see the kind of killing blow here as all of these cracklings head streaming down across the map. Man, this is going to look like a campaign mission kicks. Just everything's piling into the natural. And Drew, I mean, I guess he doesn't even need to commit to the kill just yet. He's working on consume behind this, but oh my gosh, he's almost maxed out with
on
cracklings.
It's insane. I don't know how he's even going to push in the Corsairs moving forward. I just want to see some amazing storms, but he's actually using the storms on the Hydras. He needs these storms to keep these lings out, but it's only a matter of time before he actually dies here. Looks like we do have the swell of Zerg moving forward. They're kind of moving in one by one because he can't move them all at once, but even this is just far too many lings.
Whew, yeah, well, this is going to do it. Even with the storms able to just really trade effectively, Caspus is going to GG out. Drew will take the win, and that will give Valhalla team the 3-0 over ReV.
Yep. Obviously, we do still have a fourth game to go to as well, so we're going to be jumping in now. That does give ReV a chance to get a kind of a game on the scoreboard here in week number 2. But Valhalla team played out this series really well. Their players obviously took down a good number of ReV's players. Now, I know that Caspus, I think, actually subbed in for Medinho, so maybe that game would have looked a little bit different with Medinho. Obviously, Medinho, the best player by far on ReV, along with Avalov. But we're going to be going into game number 4. It's going to be a PvP, and it should be a couple of these players. So we'll be back. guys, welcome back to the STPL. My name is Kix, joining me is Rapid. We're here for the final game of ReV versus Valhalla team. So we've seen Valhalla team take the 3-0 victory, but in case you're not familiar with the STPL, every single game counts towards the final stats, which lead towards the qualifying for the playoffs at the end of the round. And then those playoffs lead into the grand final playoffs, which are ever closer, or they've never been closer, should I say, as we're in the final round of Season 1.
Yeah, it does matter in the end. Trust us, we promise. But for right now, yeah, Valhalla team took the 3-0, so this is the moral victory that we're looking at here.
Yeah, so let's quickly introduce both our players. We're going to have one of ReV's newer players here. We've seen her before a couple of times, but she did go against some insanely good players, so let's actually quickly show them off as the least drive past my house. I'm actually hopefully going to be moving soon, so I'll be away from all the sirens, which would be nice. But we're going to have Quail for ReV, always in the chat, and always here supporting the STPL, which is great, along with Incomplete and her other clan members as well. But she did lose to Ultra and Radley before, but this is going to be the first PvP that Quail plays, so it's all well and good there. We'll have to see how good they are in the situation. And their opponent fighting for Valhalla team is going to be Dates. Now, Dates has actually done some of the best out of all of the people on Valhalla team. He beat Famasi, he beat Hirmu, and he beat Herbie as well. So, I mean, just beating Famasi in a PvT makes it pretty obvious how cool the Dates can play PvT here. So, looking forward to seeing how Quail is going to do against such a strong opponent as we get into our fourth map of today. It's going to be on New Bloody Ridge. Okay guys, so we are going to be seeing New Bloody Ridge here. Now I do have the map open behind me, so luckily enough I can show you guys where both our players are going to be spawning. In the top right hand position we will have Dates and we will have Quail in the bottom left. Now it is going to be a TVP. TVP on this map is quite decisive. Now you can see by the map image it's kind of different to a lot of maps, very similar to something like Heartbreak Ridge, where the map is wider than it is tall, so it's not a square. You can see that the map kind of has these, the thing they call the bloody ridges in the middle, and I'm going to draw my really badly drawn lines once again just to prove out where they are. This makes pushing for either side a little bit more difficult, because obviously both players can get to one of the ridges from their main, and that's going to be likely where we're going to see the players move to. But if you move to get the other ridge, it makes it very difficult because you're pushing from high ground to low ground back up to high ground again, which in PvT is pretty difficult.
Yes, certainly is. Oh man, tanks on high ground, tell me more. It's yeah, very difficult to do that. But usually you actually see the Terran player be the one to make that big push. You can see like the 2-1, like Hanbang just go for it, or you can see vultures try to make it across those, and sometimes that can be pretty difficult. So yeah, I'm actually just excited to get into it. I remember watching Dates play and have a lot of success earlier, and of course Quail, always a mainstay, the strong backbone of Team ReV. So yeah, let's just get into the game and see what happens.
Just before we do that, huge thank you to Go Play Tetris for the $10 donation, man. Means a lot for the support. And let's get into game number 4 on New Bloody Ridge. Okay, starting us off here in the top right-hand position, we do have the Teal Protoss fighting For Valhalla team, it's Dates.
That's right. And on the other side, in the I guess white as Terran, this is Quail, of course, playing for Team ReV as Terran. So TVP to end off the night. Getting just about every matchup tonight, Kicks, except for some of the mirrors.
Yeah, we've had a lot of Terrans today. Now, if I was to go back in time to about 9 months ago, just over that when I first started the STPL and we were working our way through round 1, it was a PvP wasteland for me, and I was like, wow, I guess we're just never gonna have any Terrans in the foreign teams. And then round 2 happened, more joined, and then round 3 happened and more Terrans joined, and it's like, all of a sudden, there's a league full of Terrans, Protoss, and Zerg. We see such a good diversity of matchups now, and it's definitely all down to the good work from the clan leaders who have been really trying to diversify their rosters.
Yes, I mean, besides just diversity of rosters, there's just diversity of players. Whether it's just you know, different players being added to the team or kind of cycling through. We actually have quite a few players that have like changed teams and kind of hopped back and forth between different teams. I can never keep up with some of the teams that these players are on, but both of our players here have actually just only ever been on these teams. But yeah, nice to see some new blood. Let's see what the builds are going to be. Looks like we are going to have a Rax expand here from Quail versus Dates, who is going to go for, I guess, just one gate.
Gate into core from Gas, very, very standard. Could see a second gate as a sort of a reaction to scouting, but it is actually going to be a one barracks expand here, so there's no gas as of yet for Quail. Building up the minerals now to send the SUV out to build their command center. And just not a bad build on this map. Obviously it is a 2-player map, so it makes it a little bit more difficult, but it looks like Dates isn't going to add that second gateway on, so that should make things a little bit easier.
Yeah, it definitely will. I think the biggest thing for me is just watching to see which player wants to pull the trigger on the early expo, and this time it is Quail, who, like I said, did go for that one Rax expand. Now, obviously, there's still the probe in the base and can probably figure out, okay, well, this is going to be a very early Nexus. So if there had been, like, say, 2 gates, or if there were something like an aggressive DT build, then, yeah, you can actually, if you can hit before the turrets come down, then,
wow,
ooh, things get super scary.
Dates' micro there on that probe was absolutely insane. Using the single range advantage the probes have over the SCV, he managed to micro his way back against Quail's SCV and get the kill. That's not something you get to see every day. And I mean, he is going to see that Quail's command center is coming up, so fairly standard fare from him. One thing that I do want to point out is the first time I believe we saw Quail, it was back in round 2, and I know she was a completely new player to Brood War. ReV sort of added her to the clan because they were like, well, we accept everyone, we're one big family. And I'm interested to see exactly how much Quail has actually improved, because just to be able to go for a one rax expanded PvP, I don't even do this, so I'm not confident enough to do this, and I've been playing Terran for 9 years. Like, this isn't an easy build to sort of stay alive with in the early game. Now, obviously, we've not got any kind of crazy aggression coming in, but Dates is going for that second gateway before the Nexus, so there's going to be a lot of Dragoons heading Quail's way, and will she be ready?
Well, that's the thing, is you have so many things to defend against. This is sort of like this is the Terran Gateway expand, if you want to look at it that way. But the idea is you can die to just a lot. Like, if there's been 2 gates pumping Zealots at this point, things can be scary. The biggest thing is you have to defend against ranged Dragoons hitting your bunker, and you have to worry about DT rush, because you just have nothing to detect at this point. So you've got to hurry up and get the defenses you need to stop the Dragoons, but you also need to get an engineering bay or scanners or just anything to stop DTs from coming in. Because I don't think Quail has any idea that there aren't DTs out on the map.
I mean, luckily enough there isn't, but that Quail hasn't really been able to get any scouting information after those initial 2 Dragoons. Now, I'm not entirely sure what Dates is actually doing. Adding a 3rd pylon back here, going into double Dragoon production, but no tech and no Nexus. Looks like Nexus might be the order of the day. The probe is going out there to build that. But that's only going to benefit Quail. Now, Quail does need to be careful. Quail needs to pull more SCVs onto this bunker or things are going to get really hairy. No tankers of yet and only 4 Marines. The SCVs have been pulled. But this is going to be a lot of Dragoons here that Quail is going to have to be able to defend against. And suddenly, the tables have turned.
Oh yeah, and this is actually just total tragedy. Once you lose that bunker, it's almost just game over. It's game over, man. It's game over. And yeah, that's gonna do it. GG. Quail taps out, and Dates secures the 4-0 flawless victory for Valhalla team over ReV.
Yep. Now, obviously, it's a little bit fortunate there from Quail, but that's one of the reasons why it is just so difficult to go for that build. Like, you make one wrong move, you forget to repair for whatever reason. I mean, it's not the easiest thing to do. It sounds really stupid, and it's really difficult to remember to repair your bunker. Obviously, that did go down very, very quickly, but it's certainly not the only person to lose to that. I've actually seen pro players lose to that recently as well. Obviously, a little less common at the pro level, but still, it's just one of those unfortunate facts of playing Terran. But obviously that does give Dates the overall win.
Yeah, and it's the same situation for Caspus on the previous map where he didn't know about those rear expands. First of all, these maps are weird, and second, it sucks the sub because you're just like, oh well, here we go, and you don't really know what to expect. So there's only so much that you can expect there, and it's not like that map win would have turned around the series for ReV. But it's still cool to see players coming back that we haven't seen play in a long time. Nice to have some get the experience to play in a tournament. I know that's something that not a lot of players really get an opportunity to do, and it's one of the nice things about Clan ReV is that they let you let basically everybody in so that they can get that experience. So
it's pretty
really cool.
So let's just quickly go into the results screen. We'll have a look at how exactly the series went, but you can see there that we had a 4-0 sweep here for Valhalla team. So YY took down Incomplete, Threes took down Narsil, Drew took down Caspus and Quail, took down Dates as well. A little bit unfortunate there for ReV, but there's still many more weeks to go in round 4. And I know that regardless of win or lose, as always said, that ReV do not mind. They just enjoy playing the game, and they're happy to be here. So I'm happy to have them here as well. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed their games too. It's been great fun getting to see a little bit more of these two teams, because we've not seen them too much.
That's right, and it's been fun to see them all with our wonderful viewers. So a big thanks to everybody for coming out and tuning in to this week's STPL broadcast. It is early and cold here, so I'm going to go sleep for a long time and hibernate under some covers. And wherever you are, just thanks for watching. If you want to follow more of the STPL, you can do that on Twitter at STPL TV, or just hit the follow button right up above the channel to know when Kix goes live with STPL.
There's also STPL TV on YouTube, where you can see all of the previous VODs from every single game played in the STPL. I know there's over 300 videos on my YouTube channel that you can go through if you so choose to. That's going to be us for today. Hopefully you all enjoyed the cast, and we will see you guys next time.